Hey everybody, you've made it to the Jed Therapy channel where a little awareness goes a long way. My name is Jed Thorpe, licensed therapist. Today we're going to talk about psychological grooming, and you might be surprised to learn that it doesn't just happen to kids. Alright, welcome back. That didn't take long. I'm glad you're here. If you haven't already, push the subscribe button and let's just get right into this whole psychological grooming. A psychological groomer is an individual who engages in the process of manipulating, conditioning, and then establishing emotional control over someone else. The first step is to identify your target, if you're the groomer. This typically includes people who are vulnerable, in some way. They maybe have a low self-esteem, they're feeling lonely, they need validation or acceptance, or maybe they're going through a really hard time, in life. A lot of crises are going on. They're in some kind of personal challenge. Number two, the groomer needs to build trust. This is where they establish themselves as trustworthy. This is the phase. They're understanding, they're empathetic, they're offering emotional support, they're validating stuff. More importantly, for the groomer, this is the find out period. This is where they learn all about you. They need to do this because the more they know about you, the more they can cater their answers to what you need to hear in order to align with whatever your goals and values are. So they need this period of time to figure out all about you. The third step is called emotional dependency. This is established with increased emotional intimacy. You're being more vulnerable. You're sharing secrets with each other. You're sharing information about yourself that's vulnerable to you. And you think that it's going both ways, but the information they're giving you is fabricated. It's not actual, genuine, or honest. It's just, again, they're aligning with what you need them to say in order to become more and more dependent on them emotionally. You trust them. At this point, they've established themselves as being quite valuable to you, and you're holding them in pretty high regard. Why not? They've aligned with everything that you want in someone to trust, and they've taken quite a long time to do this, typically. Again, this is a slow cook, and if you ever think to yourself, or if you're ever having a conversation with someone and the idea that other people just don't get your relationship, they just don't get it, that's just not a good sign. When you say phrases like that, it disconnects you more and more from your support system, from your other past connections that you've had for probably a long time. Now, here's where the fun begins. Here we go. You're the frog. You're in the water. It's not very hot, but then they start to crank it up. Step 4 is called the testing boundaries phase. The slogan should be, how uncomfortable is too uncomfortable. That's the whole idea, because all they're going to do when they're cooking you slowly is they'll test and retest what's allowable in the discussion. Physical boundaries, that's not on the menu right now in step 4. They first have to get you feeling safe and secure with conversation, with ideas that that you weren't allowed to go with initially, in this relationship. They might even throw in some what if scenarios, again, just to see where you're at. This is all it is, testing and retesting your comfort level. By the way, the more patient the groomer is, the slower the cook. The impatient groomer, they're going to move more quickly. They'll go quickly through these stages, but they'll risk scaring you away. If that water gets too hot too quick, that frog's going to jump out. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Step 5, this is going into a more emotional manipulation where if you're uncomfortable, they're going to start gaslighting you and say things like, I can't believe you'd think I was suggesting that. I can't believe that wasn't, no. You just got too hot too quick. They'll guilt trip you, like, I thought you really cared about me. And they'll try to isolate you more and say things like, well, that's why you talk to me about this and not them. You know what I mean? Again, it's a real isolating piece. They're testing and retesting. And by the way, this isn't a long list. There's only 7. So by step 6, things are going to start to escalate. Why? Because if you're still here by step 6, The groomer has succeeded. You're already doing things that you never would have done initially. This slow process has been accomplished over time. They've got what they want. The metaphorical frog is cooked, and you know this. You're doing things that you never would have done. You're tolerating behaviors that never would have been tolerated, because this is, like I said, full boil. And but the beauty of it, sadly, is you're none the wiser. You're just not seeing it. And if you are seeing it, you're having a bias and you're not allowing yourself to see it. People don't believe what they don't want to believe. So at this point, that's it. You're cooked. Now, I feel just a little depressed, but sometimes we need to talk about unhappy topics. And, maybe a frog being tortured is going to stick into your head. It might be just what you need in order to help either yourself or someone else out of the boiling pot. Here are a few things to remember. Let's do like 9 or 10. They'll help you to protect yourself. Number 1, trust your instincts. If something feels off or uncomfortable in a relationship, or by the way, conversation, it's okay to pause. You don't have to move forward. You can actually take a step back. People who are your friends are going to accept that. Number 2, educate yourself. There's a lot of information around what grooming looks like, what abusive relationships are. There's just a ton of information. Educate yourself on what that is, just because why wouldn't you want to know? And that leads to number 3, which is maintain boundaries. But here's the catch on this whole maintain boundaries. People don't know what their boundaries are because they've never talked about what they are okay with. They just roll through life, and when things happen, I don't think I like that. Then they start talking about boundaries. Talk about this before it even gets close to that. What are you okay with doing on a first, second, third, fourth date? What are you okay with allowing behaviorally? Where are you okay with conversation? Even write it down. When you do this, you have a good frame of reference as to what you are okay with before you get put in the pot and heat it up, because your idea of what's okay and what's not okay is changing with the heat of the water. And number 4, slow the bleep down. Don't rush intimacy. Be wary, by the way, of people who are trying to escalate intimacy. This is just a power move. They want emotional control. Let's move in together. You know what I mean? Or people who push for too much personal information too quickly. What are we on? Number 5? That is stay connected. Maintain a support or a network of friends and family. Number 6, avoid isolation. I guess that's the same thing. But groomers can only cook one frog at a time. If the frog's alone, hey, that's a target right there. If the frog has a lot of friend frogs or whatever, they can't throw them all in the pot. They can't groom a group of people. A lot easier when the frog's alone. Number 7, please be skeptical of gifts and favors. This is a biggie. Purchasing behavior. These are just used to manipulate your emotion. It's harder to say no to someone when you owe them something. And if they've given you something and you haven't given something of equal value in return, you owe them. And strings are attached no matter what they say. Number 8, this is one for the online stuff. I've had so many clients come in here who hadn't verified identity with who they were falling for online. Verify their identity. Get their names. What's their history? Are they single? Are they married? Are they convicted of some felony or rape charges or pedophilia? Are they on the watch list? It's a red flag for the love. It's a red flag if after you ask a question, people are hesitant or guarded around what they tell you. If you ask a question and they say, why would you ask something like that? That is being guarded. So yeah, there's that. And number 9, I think that's the last one, guard your personal information. If you're giving sensitive information about yourself, not social security stuff, but your background, past trauma, emotional insecurities, there needs to be some matching. And you can't even trust that at some point. because groomers will fake match you, information-wise. So you just have to do your due diligence. Whew, is that 10? I think we're at 10. I'm hungry. It's been a long video. Let's just stop it right there, and let's just stop right there. That's good information. You know what groomers are. You know what groomers target. You know how they behave now. You know some of the tricks they have up their sleeve. And lastly, you have been taught 9 at least ways to protect yourself from being, boiled. Because man, whew, I see it that comes through here. People have just been groomed a whole bunch of times, and when they look back at it, they can see it, but man, when they're in it, they just get cooked. A lot of consequences, a lot of sad, tragic consequences. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you watched the whole video. I hope you learned something. If this is something that's might be helpful to somebody share the information. You can find more information on the website www.meaningtolive.com. And until next time, awareness up.